Well, welcome everyone. It's absolutely delightful to see this turnout for the first annual President's Town Hall. As many of you will know, in the past few years, we've held an annual general meeting in November, and we've decided this year to try a new format and to split that annual general meeting into two components. Having the town hall in September right here on campus, and we'll have another one in the Okanagan. And this really gives an opportunity for the campus community and alumni, students, faculty, and staff to ask questions and to raise issues of concern. And then in December, we will continue with what I hope is now a new tradition, which is the Blue and Gold Review. This is more externally focused for the wider community to report on what's been happening at UBC over the course of the year. And we're actually going to release our annual report then. And I'm also delighted to say it will mark the release of Place and Promise, the UBC Plan. So I hope that all of you have had an opportunity to view some of the posters in the foyer and to talk to some of the people working on those projects. I'll have a few words to say about some of the projects later. They're going to remain up, the posters, after the event, so if you haven't had a chance, do walk by. First, I would like to take a moment to welcome especially all of our UBC alumni who are here, including faculty and staff who've graduated from this wonderful university. Just out of interest, could I ask all of you who are UBC alumni to stand up for a moment? It's always exciting to have the sense of engagement from our alumni who want to stay in touch with their alma mater, and some of you, of course, who actually work here. Thank you all for your contributions. At this time, I'd like to introduce the chair of the UBC Board of Governors, Mr. Brad Bennett. Brad has made his mark as a businessman, entrepreneur, and strong community supporter. Let me tell you, he is Mr. Okanagan, and now he's Mr. UBC. He's currently the president of Macintosh Properties Limited and has served on a number of private and public company boards. He's currently a director of BC Advantage Funds, the Premier's Technology Council, Sidetrack Technologies, Quails Gate Estate Winery, my favorite, and Lodgepole Energy Management Corporation. I can also tell you that Brad is a tireless volunteer for UBC. Please don't tell his business partners, but there are many points during the year when he spends as much as 50% of his time on UBC business. Brad, thank you very much for all you do. Welcome, and I'm looking forward to what you have to say.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. As Stephen said, my name's Brad Bennett. I chair the Board of Governors. My bio appears to be a little out of date in that version, but I'll ask Rennie to take care of it. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here today, not just to this town hall, but also to this new academic year that promises to be not only exciting and stimulating, but as part of our own place of mind, which is UBC. Since joining the board of UBC in 2004, I have attended a great many events, both here in Vancouver and my home in Kelowna in the Okanagan. Many of these events are intended to showcase the university's activities, and they give the community an opportunity to see what their university is doing. I am proud of the university's commitment to accountability and transparency. And I take special pride in looking back at what our students, faculty, and staff have been doing over this past year. Over the last 25 years, UBC has grown very rapidly, from a leader in provincial education to a major force on the national and international scene. And that growth has not always been achieved without struggle. In my own time on the board, UBC has been transformed from a Vancouver-oriented university to a province-wide system, with campuses in downtown Vancouver and in Kelowna, as well as Point Grey. During this period, the board has taken very seriously its responsibility to work closely with the university administration and the provincial government to fulfill our common purpose, to serve the best interests of the students, faculty, and staff at the university, and thereby serve all the people of this province. And speaking of the board as a whole, I can assure you that nowhere will you find a more enthusiastic and supportive group of UBC boosters. I've been very fortunate to sit on this board with two outstanding presidents, Martha Piper and Stephen Toope, individuals of astonishing drive and conviction, whose vision has transformed and is still in the process of transforming the goals and methods of learning and research, not just here at UBC, but right across the country. Thanks to their vision, UBC is recognized as a national leader in a number of areas, notably environmental education and sustainability research, both of which are of critical importance today and well into the future. I'm happy to add that the Board of Governors has enjoyed an excellent year also, working closely with Professor Toope and his administration to help meet the many challenges which face us today. Our deliberations have one clear goal: to serve the university to the very best of our ability. Although members bring to the board the views of their different constituencies, I can assure you there are no advocates for any one interest group, whether they be faculty, staff, students, or external. Decisions are made in the best overall interests of the university and in support of UBC's mission to be a world-renowned institution of higher education and research. A mission, let me add, that we are well on the way to achieving. Finally, I want to conclude by paying tribute to my colleagues on the current board who have given me incredible support during my time as chair. They have earned my admiration, my respect, by their unstinting service to this university and their unwavering beliefs in the value of higher education and their commitment to providing the young people of this province with the best possible education to be found anywhere in this country. Thanks to all of you, UBC is on the path to becoming one of the very best research-intensive universities on the globe. I also want to thank our donors and our civic, provincial, and federal governments for the continued commitment to post-secondary education, teaching, and research. Finally, let me express the university's gratitude to all those who have supported and continue to support our students, faculty, and staff, the people who make it happen through their originality, inventiveness, and dedication to the highest ideals of teaching and learning. Thank you. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce UBC's Chancellor, Sarah Morgan-Sylvester. Sarah was a UBC Honours graduate in Commerce in 1982. Since then, she has shown high accomplishment as a corporate leader, community volunteer, wife, and mother. She is currently chair of Canada's largest port, Vancouver Fraser Port Authority. She was a recipient of Canada's Top 40 Under 40 Award in 1998 and is a fellow of the Institute of Canadian Bankers. We are indeed privileged to have her as our Chancellor. Please welcome Madam Chancellor Sarah Morgan-Sylvester.
Well, thank you very much, Brad, not only for that very kind introduction, but for all that you do for UBC, your time, vision, and especially your unwavering commitment. Well, I too would like to welcome you all this afternoon and thank you for making the time to reflect on the past and, excitingly, help plan the future. I want to begin by expressing my deep gratitude to the Alumni Association and all UBC alumni for their confidence and support and for giving me an opportunity to serve this great university as Chancellor. UBC belongs in the category of great universities. There's no doubt. From its earliest days, it's attracted gifted and outstanding students, given them the tools to forge their own success, and instilled in them a strong sense of civic responsibility and concern for the well-being of others, surely among the prime goals of higher education. A sense of UBC's future greatness was strongly conveyed by our founding president, Frank Fairchild Westbrook, who wrote in the first UBC annual yearbook in 1916, "To us has come the opportunity of making our province, our dominion, our empire, and our world a better place in which to live." Today, President Westbrook would probably not recognize our multiple campuses, but he would feel justifiably proud of UBC's national and international reputation. Today, he would be proud of the accomplishments of our teachers and researchers, many of whom are acknowledged to be among the finest in the world. He would be proud, too, of the quality of UBC's graduates, among whom are found distinguished leaders in almost every field and profession. And I suspect he would take special pleasure in the direction UBC will be embracing under the proposed UBC plan called Place and Promise, a new 5-year strategic plan which will be the result of over a year-long process of consultation with all constituencies, students, faculty, staff, and alumni. After being Chancellor for just over 1 year, if I had to pick one thing that impressed me most about UBC, it would be the promise UBC has for the future. And what's so promising about UBC? One need look no further than the many remarkable UBC discoveries in the life sciences, our celebrated programs in the arts, our innovations in technology transfer, and UBC's leadership in the development of major new initiatives in teaching and learning. We have an engaged alumni association that is truly moving forward, increasing student numbers and student diversity, and success in recruiting and retaining great faculty and staff. Behind each of these is a story about an institution open to new and original ideas, an inspiring place where people will find open thought, open speech, and open doors to thinking that can change the world. A young university, relatively speaking, with freshness in thinking and approach. UBC indeed is both place and promise, and a place of mind, making a difference locally, nationally, and internationally. And I am very proud to be Chancellor of such a pace-setting institution. I look forward to what promises to be a lively, stimulating, and productive exchange of views on how we can best fulfill President Westbrook's wish that UBC make the world a better place. To use the phrase he gave us, to a mest, it's up to you. Thank you.
I can tell you that I don't think there's any university in the country, probably not in the world, that has stronger volunteer leadership than UBC right now. I just want to report on a few of the key university initiatives that are taking place as we look to the future. Sarah's already mentioned Place and Promise, the UBC plan. I just want to trace out a little bit what we're trying to accomplish with that plan. It's composed of a high-level university-wide plan, but it's built up from a series of component plans that are absolutely essential in and of their own right. We began with an Aboriginal strategic plan, moving on to research plans, international plans, community service learning and community-based research plans, a sustainability academic plan. There will be more and more faculty and departmental level plans, some of which have already been completed. And together, taking, I think, direction and a sense of purpose from the overall university-level plan, I'm hoping that over the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be in a continuing process, an iterative conversation about the future of the university. And for that reason, the strategic plan will not simply be a paper document. It's going to be alive on the web. And you can already begin to see some of that process if you look at www.strategicplan, all one word, .ubc.ca. The plan began with a challenge to the community to think about how UBC was currently positioned and to think about how the past plan, TREC 2010, and its predecessor had contributed to the university's development. And so we began with a vision, and we were told very clearly that the vision that had been expressed in TREC 2010 was largely sound, was inspiring, and really should serve as the key to the future. And so we have modified that vision in the light of certain very particular comments, very especially some comments from students around the idea of global citizenship. And the notion that global citizenship, which we're really fundamentally committed to at the university, was not something done to students here, but was actually a process in which we're all engaged. And in fact, more than that, we heard from the wider community that the plan, the vision for the university should be cast in a way that emphasized that each and every person here at UBC, staff, faculty, students, and to a large extent, alumni, are part of a continuing learning community. And so there has been some revisioning to try and ensure that that kind of notion was to the forefront of the plan. And so let me just remind you of the re-articulation of the vision which will surface in Place and Promise. As one of the world's leading universities, the University of British Columbia creates an exceptional learning environment that fosters global citizenship, advances a civil and sustainable society, and supports outstanding research to serve the people of British Columbia, Canada, and the world. And then we heard that we should be articulating as clearly as possible the values that we wanted to bring to the university in all that it does. And so there's a very clear statement of university values. But then we were also told in the consultation, and by the way, there were thousands of people who participated in that consultation process, that we should be looking to commitments. What was it that the university was going to do to live out its values? And so you'll see 10 specific commitments that the university makes. And what excites me about these commitments is that many of them are quite specific to UBC. Quite frankly, if you look at most strategic plans for most research-intensive universities around the world, they're pretty generic. One could seem to replace another in one part of the world or another without very much difficulty. I don't think that's true of TREC 2010, and I don't think it's true of Place and Promise, because the commitments, many of them, I think articulate very much the specificity of this place being here in British Columbia, what that represents as part of Canada, that there are certain opportunities and indeed responsibilities that we have that might be somewhat different from other major research-intensive universities. Aboriginal engagement is an obvious one. A fundamental commitment to sustainability in our operations, our research, and our teaching and learning is another. Then we decided that it was really important to take those commitments and to begin to specify them, admittedly still at a university-wide level, by creating a set of goals. And right now, we're in the process of discussing those goals. So I encourage all of you to look at the website for the strategic plan and to offer your commentary on the goals that have been crafted after very extensive consultation. We've had, obviously, formal consultations with the deans, with the senates, with board, alumni, various advisory groups, but also very informal consultation through focus groups, often involving many students, thousands of individual comments offered on the web. All of this information and a summary of what we've heard is posted on that website, and I encourage you to be involved. The last point I want to make about the strategic plan is that we have made a fundamental commitment, which we heard was essential, to link the strategic plan to concrete budgeting processes. We did hear some critique of Trek 2010 that although it was inspiring, although it really did in many ways attract people to UBC and retain them here, it wasn't always a lived document. And that was in many ways because we hadn't made the connection between the budget and the strategic plan. So we are doing that quite aggressively, and I think it is crucial to the success of the plan. As I mentioned, the plan will be launched at the Blue and Gold Review in December after further consultation over the course of the next couple of months. Economically, financially, where is UBC positioned? This is actually a very difficult positioning to articulate clearly, so I hope you'll be a little patient with me. It's difficult because when I look around the world and I talk to my colleagues, university presidents and other leaders in Canada, in North America, and in other parts of the globe, I am struck that UBC is remarkably well placed given the external circumstances in which we all find ourselves. Why is that? First, as Brad mentioned, we have received consistent and indeed visionary support from the provincial government. At exactly the moment when the province went into deficit for the first time in a number of years, an increased commitment was made to the 4 research-intensive universities in the last budget. Our operating grant was increased, one of only 2 sectors in society where that was true. Of course, we had challenges with the endowment, and I've posted many letters to you over the course of the last few months trying to explain how that's been dealt with. But even in that circumstance, I can tell you that our endowment had been well managed, and the Board of Governors has been quite rigorous in ensuring that going forward we make careful choices about how that endowment is spent. And so the spend rate, for example, was reduced this year, and we've created a plan to try to regenerate some of the endowment categories where there had been significant suffering because of the downturn. Overall, we lost about 20% of value, but none of these were real losses in the sense that we're still holding most of the investments that had lost value. And so as investments have risen again, so too the endowment is beginning to recover. That is not true of many of our sister institutions where there were real losses. I won't single any out, but some in the hundreds of millions of dollars. We also have the remarkable gift at UBC of a foresighted policy to wisely and sustainably develop some of our campus lands to increase our endowment. That has resulted in some more than $260 million going directly into our endowment from land leases and rental revenues. This has to be done on a sustainable basis, but it is a tremendous gift to UBC. I can't tell you how rare it is around the world for a university to have access to endowment income that is not tied to specific purposes. Almost all private gifts, naturally enough, come with a specific goal. But the endowment income coming from our land lease revenues and rental revenues is untied. That means for the future of this university, forever, leaders here will be able to make decisions about how to deploy that money. A remarkable gift. Finally, overall, our pensions are solvent. Now, I don't want to underestimate the individual challenge that this may have caused for some faculty members looking to retirement and staff members looking to retirement. Because of the way our pension funds are structured, the university is not in a position where our funds are underwater. That, nonetheless, the funds have lost value in the same way that the endowment did, and that has affected individual choices. But just as the endowment is building back up, so too are the pension funds building back up. And I can tell you that in Eastern Canada, many of our sister institutions are facing fundamental crises in their economic sustainability because their pension funds are not properly funded. They have the same problem that General Motors has, and they're not likely to get bailed out. So, a remarkable strength, but this has to be put in the context of the surrounding economic difficulty. And so we know that there are, in fact, substantial economic challenges. We know we have to find roughly $25 million in our budget to create, going forward, a sustainable and predictable operating budget. I am really honored to say that over the course of the summer, many people in this room and others have worked in some 20 working groups to come up with very concrete plans about how to address that $25 million shortfall. And we will be obviously going into the wider community with those plans over the course of the next few weeks. The goal, and here I want to be very clear, the goal is to first look to administrative efficiencies. And there have been significant administrative efficiencies already found in the area of plant operations, for example, through a judicious reorganization of the management structure and through now reorganization of the work delivery. We believe we can find $2 million of savings. That's just the beginning. We're trying desperately not simply to take the easy way out and to say, let's just impose across-the-board cuts, because that's not strategic, and it won't get us to where we want to get. It won't fulfill the promise of which the Chancellor spoke. And we heard that consistently in all consultations around the strategic plan and the budgeting. Let's make choices. Let's not take the easy way out. A third area of tremendous work over the past couple of years has been on the way we tell the UBC story. We've been trying to develop clearly a short, true, and compelling way to describe UBC in what is admittedly a cluttered landscape in the broader public. There are some critical elements to our story. We have students here bright enough to be at any university anywhere in the world. We have here research prowess that has propelled UBC over the course of the last 2 decades to a rank among the top 35 universities in the world. That's a huge achievement. Finally, we have a place that is absolutely unique. Our beautiful campuses, the idea of the West as a place where people are attracted by the freedom to create and recreate their world. We heard this as a strong message from students, faculty, staff, and from external focus groups. And so the combination of those elements, which I think are unique amongst our sister institutions, provide the emotional touchstone for a new way to tell our story. UBC, a place of mind. We started the campaign last week, and it features bold headlines and imagery, one of which you'll see here, telling stories about the amazing things that happen from here. From here, UBC Vancouver, from here, UBC Okanagan, and other sites across the province. And I can assure you that each and every one of those stories is validated by real research, background work that tells the story of something that's happening in a compelling way. You've probably noticed as well that we've completely redesigned our UBC websites, and we've launched a new community site where all of you can participate, an opportunity to bring your stories, which are UBC stories, to tell from here. Permit me to just take a moment to show you a very brief video clip which I think gives an overview of this new storytelling approach. Once again, I encourage you to link your stories, to tell your stories from here. I should mention that there are a number of very important academic building projects which are about to be launched or are in process. The Federal Knowledge Infrastructure Program, with provincial matching support, has funded the Okanagan Geothermal Project. All heating at the Okanagan campus will be geothermal. This, of course, supports our sustainability objectives, and I am delighted to say that we're looking towards a comparably bold plan for UBC Vancouver. We also have Knowledge Infrastructure Program support for a renewal of the Biosciences building here in Vancouver. The provincial government, again, in a time of fiscal restraint, has over the last 6 months announced $128.4 million of support for academic buildings at UBC Vancouver, the Earth Systems Science Building, the Centre for Interactive Research and Sustainability, and Pharmacy Centre for Research and in Drug Development are all going forward. Just a few other footnotes on, I think, some great developments at UBC. President's Advisory Council on Sustainability was implemented this last year, and through 7 working groups is helping to coordinate teaching, research, and operational activities, and has already produced a sustainability academic plan. Tremendous fundraising success at the university, which most people around the world simply can't believe. We had last year by far the best fundraising year in UBC's history, despite the economic challenges in our surrounding environment. Our wonderful deans, many people working across the university with the talented leadership in development and alumni engagement raised $135.3 million for UBC. UBC implemented through the VP Research and International Office in conjunction with Graduate Studies and Go Global an International Student Mobility Award. 26 PhD students, 21 outbound and 5 inbound, have now received these new awards. We now have in place a student housing strategy to build 2,500 new beds in Vancouver over the course of the next 4 years. New housing assistance plan for faculty after a year of consultation. 60 new daycare spaces over the course of the last year, and I am thrilled to say now an aggressive new plan just introduced to the Board of Governors yesterday to produce many more spaces as soon as possible. Tri-Council research funding for UBC has seen a 44.6% increase over the past 5 years, and 6.5% in the last year alone. Exemplifying UBC research excellence, and I can only give one example, is the fact that Dr. Anthony Phillips, appointed this year to lead the CIHR Institute of Neurosciences, Mental Health and Addiction. That's, of course, a nationwide institute, and it's the 3rd such CIHR institute based here at UBC. The other 2 are aging and gender. We know that the strength of UBC is found in our people, and that's why this has been the first year of implementation for the Focus on People plan. A very careful strategy with plans over the course of the next 3 years to really support as much as possible all of the endeavors of the wonderful people who work here at UBC. So I simply want to end by saying thank you for the contribution that each and every one of you makes to the success of UBC. I am deeply proud to have a leadership role in this institution and to work with all of you so that we can become an even stronger, even more influential, and even more community-spirited university. Thank you very much. Now we have time for questions, of course. There are 2 microphones, one on either side. I encourage anyone who would like to offer a question to come up to the microphone. We'll switch back and forth between the mics. And I should say in advance that if we run out of time, I do want you to know that you'll have an opportunity to submit your question, and all you have to do is to go to a website, info.townhall.ubc.ca. So we'll get that back to you, I'm sure, later in the program. Yes, Adam.
A couple of months ago, there were some focus groups that were done regarding the diversity at UBC.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, I haven't had a chance to look at the website yet, but if there are some components within the strategic plan about inclusiveness with respect to the diversity at UBC, specifically in the area of disabilities.
Yes, thank you. This is actually the whole question of cultural communication and diversity, broadly writ, is actually one of the fundamental commitments in the strategic plan, one of the 10 fundamental commitments in the strategic plan. In addition, underneath that commitment, and there are some specific goals that are set out, including specifically access goals and people with physical diversity issues. There is also an equity plan, which is being worked on now, which is being spearheaded by Tom Patch, the AVP for Equity, and that plan is just being produced and will be forming the operational element of the commitments made in the overall strategic plan. So from my perspective, those diversity questions constructed in the widest sense to ensure that one of the fundamental ideas is intellectual diversity at this institution, not to speak of all of the other forms of diversity, that is a key element for the strategic plan. Yes?
Hi. I'm going to apologize at the beginning for the length of this question because it's going to need some background. Liquor policy on campus has been a big concern for students for a number of years. I recently compiled the database of all the liquor licenses handed out on campus in the last year and a half and found that there were many, many violations committed by the RCMP. Provincial liquor laws say one thing, and the RCMP basically enforces something absolutely completely different. The RCMP is saying that they're enforcing provincial liquor laws when it comes to these, but the reality of the case is that they've distorted the rules so much that they're largely irrelevant to who's getting licenses. There have been many incidents that have been documented up to this point where students have had licenses modified or denied, even though they were fit well within provincial liquor regulations. And there are also instances of departments within UBC and other groups getting licenses, even though they clearly are not eligible under provincial law. I'm just wondering, Policy 13 of the university states that all applications must be approved by the RCMP on campus. This is different from what provincial law says. Would UBC be willing to consider looking into changing this policy? And how can I work with UBC in order to ensure fair treatment by the RCMP?
Great question, and it's very interesting. This is, for those of you for whom this may be a new issue, I can assure you, as was indicated, it is not. When I first arrived here, I have regular breakfasts where students who just sign up on the internet come over and have breakfast at the house. My predecessor did that as well, and I can tell you that one of the most consistent messages that I've been receiving is in the perception of some of our students, UBC is participating in a war on fun. That's a serious issue from my perspective because university is one of the times in one's life when one should be having a lot of fun. Now, that doesn't mean one has to get roaring drunk and falling all over, but it does mean that we can't be operating in a circumstance where it feels like we are living through a version of prohibition. So we have been actually trying to work on this. As I say, not a new issue. There have been various groups that have self-formed over the course of the last couple of years. I know you know about them, that have been bringing this issue forward. We've had some consultations already that have involved the fraternities and other organizations, the Radical Beer Faction, one of the groups, love that name, what we're trying to do is find a mechanism that can allow the RCMP to fulfill what they believe their role to be, and they do have a role, and yet at the same time not become so intrusive that we really can fairly be accused of having a war on fun. So the short answer is yes, you can be involved. I would encourage you to speak directly with Brian Sullivan, who's the Vice President of Students, whom I'm sure you know. And this is an issue I'd like to break the back of this one because it's been going on too long. If there are policy issues from a UBC perspective, perspective that we should reconsider, then we should reconsider them. I need to know all of the dynamics, of course, but it's not something that I think we should treat as a frivolous issue, because I think it does go to the heart of creating on campus a community where people feel valued and where they really can have a full university experience. So let's work together on this. Thank you. Colleen.
Colleen Garvey, President of QB116. It's not a question, it's a statement that I'd like to make to you. You know we represent 2,000 members on this campus, and we want, on behalf of our membership, I'd like to voice our thank you to you and your leadership. Since you've come onto campus, you've brought some great people like Pierre, but you've also opened up dialogue. You've listened to us thoughtfully. You've acted upon our suggestions. You've helped us work our way through some very poor labor relations that have been on this campus for very many years. And I would be amiss on behalf of our members not to thank you. We still are struggling with our health and safety on this campus, and I know that I believe we'll have confidence in you helping us work through that as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I have to say that means a lot to me, because Colleen was on the hiring committee that brought me to UBC, so at least on one score I haven't blown it completely. Thank you. Thank you very much, Colleen.
Thank you. My question actually is more a request.
Yes.
A request for communication at a higher level, perhaps. So much of your strategic thinking may be missing some of the community because we're not hearing the end result. And the end result may actually be best given through a communication device such as UBC reports. What I'm going to request for consideration is that Board of Governors resolutions, proposals be put into that report in advance of the Board of Governors meeting. I understand that many of them may fall by the wayside before they actually get to the actual day of resolution. However, it's like a tracking process, and it'd be really great if we could actually see the resolution outcome. So all of these thoughts that you've got in the Board of Governors, if that could be communicated, I'd say we'd actually be operating at a higher level than the average town hall, which is where we started today. Thank you.
Well, let me say that we're actually already doing that, but perhaps through a different vehicle than you're aware of, and that's our fault, so we haven't been clear enough about that. We now post all of the upcoming resolutions, all of the agendas for the Board of Governors on the website, so it's available in advance of all meetings, and we're posting the open meeting minutes on the website as well. This is new as of last year. We've tried to let people know about this, but obviously we haven't let everybody know. But I completely agree that the whole point of this is we're all together working for the betterment of the university, and to the extent that people notice problems in advance and have an opportunity to contribute beforehand, we're all better off. So I encourage you to look at the website of the university under the Board of Governors tab, and you'll see all of that information available before and after each meeting. Thank you. Other questions, comments? Yes?
My name is Michael Bangsgaard. I'm proud to say I work in plant operation. We're probably the most efficient and modern department on the campus today. Well, I'm not here to promote our organization, but I'm here to promote the Olympic Games, because in 1994 I was in Lillehammer, and I know how important this event is going to be for our city, our province, and our country. 6 weeks ago I was contacted by VANOG to participate as a volunteer in their strategic or corporate strategics and partner relations. But it means that I have to take all my vacation and use on that, and it will compromise my family values because I have children too. And I'm going to use up all my vacation if I accept the position. Now, I know the provincial government have encouraged crown corporations as well as public institutions to let employees participate as volunteers while they're still on pay. Do you agree to that philosophy?
And I'm afraid that this short answer is no. No, this has actually been a really tough issue for us. We've been thinking about it very carefully. You're absolutely right that the province has made some sort of generalized requests, not specific requests, but generalized requests for the private sector and for all public sector employees to release people from their duties to work on the Olympics. And it's part, obviously, of the financial pressure, in part, that the Olympics are facing. We had to balance what we felt were two fundamental ideas. One of those ideas is, of course, we want to support to the extent that we can the success of the Olympics. We're an Olympic venue. We want this all to go well. The reality is that UBC has already made substantial investments in the Olympics. We ensured that we would be a venue site. We committed to raising $10 million of the total cost of the Thunderbird, now the Doug Mitchell Thunderbird Winter Stadium. We went out and devoted a lot of resources and were very successful in having a wonderful family and their friends donate $10 million to support that. In addition, we have been working very assiduously with VANOC on a whole series of public engagement endeavors around the Olympics. So we've spent money through our secretariat, our Olympic secretariat, to ensure that there's robust public dialogue around all aspects of the Olympics, pro and con. We feel that this is our role as a university. And in addition to that, you may know that our Robson Square campus is actually going to be the site of the international unaccredited media for the Olympics. When that unaccredited sounds like, oh, well, we're probably talking about community newspapers. That means everyone who's not an official Olympic sponsor. So all of the major broadcasters from around the world are going to be at Robson Square. With the province, we've done a lot of work to ensure access and to move people out. We've been very flexible on that. So that's on the one side. On the other side, when we agreed to participate as a venue, and this was before I arrived at UBC, a decision was taken that we would make a promise that we would not use our general purpose operating funds to support the Olympics, because we felt that was not correct, that we are given money by the taxpayers of the province and others to support the operations of the university for our students, and that we can't take that money to cross-subsidize another worthy initiative. And we made that promise. So we looked at those two issues, we tried to balance them out, and we came to the conclusion that it's just not appropriate for us to second people because that has a direct effect on the operating budget of the university. So I wish I could be a little more encouraging on that front, but that was the decision, a hard one, that we felt we had to take. By the way, I encourage anyone who wants to volunteer to do that. And whether that's for a short or a longer term, I understand that that's a personal sacrifice, but we're certainly not discouraging people from wanting to participate in the Olympics, which for many people would be a very exciting opportunity. Well, I'm going to say thank you again to all of you. It's just such a privilege to have such wonderful people at UBC. Thank you very much for your attendance today, and please make sure you go out and look at the posters if you haven't yet seen them. Thank you very much.